So today's webinar is all about what's new in Teams. Now we'll be chatting with Nick Ellis, our digital transformation consultant, about all the amazing new functionality that's been developed over the last few months. We're going to also talk about all the new functionality that will be coming in the future and look at what are the best practices. I want to start by introducing who's on this call, on this webinar today. So I'm Jig Mehta. I'm one of the marketing people in this team and also your co-host, and I'm joined by someone who's been missing from Select for the last 7 months. She went off and had a baby for some reason. No idea why you'd want to do that. And that's the lovely Tess Parson-Broom. How are you doing? Tess, you're on mute.
That just goes to show, I just said this is my first ever webinar, and clearly some teething issues to start with, but
showing
hi.
It.
Yeah.
Hello. It's showing there. So I guess you must be, excited to be back at work, back in the world in the office,
yeah,
as it were.
Well, it's quite a big change for me. So obviously I've been off since before we went into lockdown, and since before the pandemic began. So coming back to work is not just a shock because I've had a baby and kind of getting back into the swing of things, but also obviously the way we work has completely changed, and I'm working at home full time. So Teams has kind of moved on quite a lot from what I've seen.
Well, I imagine it would do, because I think the last time I saw you in the office was pre-lockdown, pre-announcing that lockdown was coming. So it was a completely different world. So I can imagine that for you now, Teams looks completely different, or maybe a little bit different. Hopefully not completely, because that'd be a bit scary, but a little bit different. And actually, you must have seen some great functionality that's been added. I mean, what stands out to you?
I think, yeah, you're right. It's definitely changed. I don't think it's just the functionality that's changed. I think also the way that, well, particularly myself has used it. So I would say it's been great to see some of these changes as well, which Nick will go through in further detail. But just a couple that really stood out for me were that now you can actually have a separate window for your chat, or a separate window for your video call that you might be having, or a meeting, but you can still have a separate window for your chat, which wasn't possible before. So it's really annoying to have to sort of flip back and forth and sort of minimizing your video screen. So that's been great. And actually that kind of links into not just the functionality, but actually how I've been using Teams. So even though I used to work 1 day a week from home before, I very rarely actually use the face-to-face meetings function within Teams. It sounds crazy now that we're back and we're kind of using this all the time, but I just kind of pick up the phone. Whereas now it just seems so much easier to schedule meetings via Teams. You've even got your calendar in there, which I really love. I don't know if that was there before, to be quite honest, but I never noticed it. So that's been a great help. And one of my favourite apps, which is Planner, is also now available on the side pane. So that's made my life a lot easier. So they're just some of the things that I've really noticed. But I guess the best thing that I can do is hand over to Nick, who can actually tell you what is new and how to use it. So Nick, I'll hand over to you. You can take us through some of the great new stuff that Microsoft have added over the past few months.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And welcome back. It's lovely to have you back amongst us, Tess. So yeah, the things you were just talking about there, they are they are part of what we're going to be talking about in terms of the what they call the new meeting experience, which is essentially that it pops it out into a separate window when you join a team meeting, rather than previously it was sort of locked, as you say, locked in the screen, and the only thing you could do was minimize it into a tiny little thing in the corner, and that was irritating. I agree with your assessment on that. That's irritating. So that you do have to actually, just as a point, you do have to switch that on. You have to opt into the new meeting experience, I think, which you can do in the settings panel. But yeah, so the various bits and bobs we're going to go through, and probably what I should do is share my screen so that people can actually see what I'm talking about. There's been a bit of, I should say now, and I've only discovered this in the last 24 hours, there's been a bit of work going on in the local broadband infrastructure near my home. So if it's a bit flaky, I do apologise, but hopefully it'll be okay. So anyway, we're looking at Teams in the web version here. The reason for that is that we're using Teams to present this webinar, so I can't do both. Despite what we were just saying, actually, when you're presenting a webinar, it doesn't pop it out into a separate window. It does it for general meetings, but it doesn't do it for webinars. So I'm using the web version, and also this is our demo system, wherein Jig, Tess, and I have very different identities. I am a chap called Richard Thompson. Tess, I believe you're a lady called Caroline, and Jig,
I am Mariam.
You're a lady called Mariam, yes. So you'll see a bit of interaction between the three of us during the course of this webinar. So let's have a quick crack through. Some of this is going to be really minor, but I think worth noting. Some of it actually isn't new, but it is, I think, underutilized and probably worth cracking out another bottle to see whether it's useful. And some of this is maybe slightly bigger stuff. We're also going to get into stuff that I can't show you yet because it hasn't been released, but it's coming in the next quarter. We'll do that towards the end of the session. So starting with an easy one is this. Now, this might seem really obvious, but actually the new conversation button caused a lot of confusion in the past, mainly by it not existing. So what you had before was a full text box with all the various functionality and what have you. And then in a reply to a conversation, you had a full text box with all the various functionality. And what that meant was it was really unclear whether you were replying to an existing conversation or starting a new one. So that caused some confusion. So you can see here, this is the marketing team for this test drive demo company. Now, if I want to reply to Caroline, who's forgotten how to get to the webinar, I'm going to hit reply there, and you'll see I get this this option. I've got a full WYSIWYG editor if I want to. What you see is what you get, and I can reply accordingly, and hopefully that will be enough information for Caroline. And you'll see that reply there, and each conversation reply at the bottom is now a separate. Excellent, Caroline. So there's now a separate new conversation button. What they used to do was basically this was exactly replicated here, and it was confusing. So now you have to actively go, I'm going to start a new conversation, and then when I start that new conversation, and that's going to come up separately. So you can see each conversation, and you can see highlighted there the bits that are new to this window. So it's a tiny weeny little thing, but it does make a big difference because basically people used to use the new conversation button all the time. The reason it's particularly important to remember whether you're replying or creating new in Teams is because it sorts the thread by, or it sorts this window by which thread has the most recent response. So if I now reply here, it won't do it straight away here, but if I come out of this and then come back to it, you'll see that it's put that at the bottom of the screen because that's the most recent. If I put that howdy to you as a new conversation, the threading all gets out of place or gets out of sequence. It wouldn't be obvious that that was a reply. It becomes a bit of a nightmare. So it's a minor improvement, but I think it's an important one, and it's one that comes up a lot when I'm doing training. So I thought I'd bring it out here. There has also been a slight change to the meet options. Now, I'm not going to launch a meeting because we discovered the other day whilst practicing with a webinar and then trying to launch a meeting here, it causes all kinds of chaos with the webcams. But there's the meet button in every channel now. So this team has got a certain number of members. I think it's probably just the 3 of us. Yep. Now, if I'm here, I can just immediately hit that meet button and it will dial everybody in the team. Well, it will give me an option to do that. Now, I'm not going to, as I say, I'm not going to proceed with that right now. But I can hit the meet now and it will bring everyone else in. And then I can say, okay, not Tess. It's not Tess, is it? It's Caroline.
Yeah.
And so on. And then it will call those people. Now I'm going to cancel that because obviously we don't want to do that here. The other side of that, which is new, the meet now function was kind of always there. What is new is the schedule a meeting. So it used to be quite irritating. You'd have to leave here, go off to the calendar, schedule the meeting, come back, and so on. So now I can hit schedule meeting. It will connect it into the channel that I'm in. I can add a title here, and then invite the people that I want to attend that meeting. Hit send, and you'll see when having done that, it adds the meeting record in, and it brings me back to the screen that I was in before, which I think is much more intuitive than it used to be. Again, it's not a huge thing.
Sorry, would that invite everyone from that team? From that?
No, not automatically. When you do a schedule, you'll see the required attendees is empty, and also it doesn't limit it to the people in the team.
Okay, that's
so you can add anyone. By default, it will add no one, and you can add anyone you want to it. What it does, the benefit of doing it from here is that you'll see that meeting is now linked into this channel. So I can get to it very easily from here. Obviously, it's going to be in the calendar as well. It'll be in your Outlook calendar. It'll be in the calendar here. But it also means, go on.
I was just going to say, I guess it just saves you from flitting around to like your email, your inbox, and then back to Teams and all of that. It keeps it all in that one hub of Teams.
One use case I've seen for this is that you create the meeting here. So let's say you've got a sales team and you want to have a meeting with your customer or your potential customer. Even if it's just you as an individual meeting with the customer, if you create the meetings from here, it sort of flags them up to everybody else in the team. So everybody else can see, oh, there's a meeting there, and they can join that conversation without joining the meeting. They don't have to be invited to the meeting to get into the conversation here. So they could come along and go, oh, actually, I've spoken to that customer already about whatever it may be. And you can have a Teams chat conversation here about the meeting separately from actually attending the meeting, if that makes sense. So, yes. So that was kind of that. I do think it's again, the functionality existed before. What's changed over the summer is they've brought it together and made it a bit more intuitive and a bit more usable. So in terms of some things that have been introduced that are new, Planner has changed in terms of, you used to have, or actually you still have got, if you prefer it, you've got Planner in the web view, you've got To Do as a local app. And what they've done is they have created a Planner app for Teams, which brings it all together and presents it all in one place, and that is this here. Now, to access these apps down the side, the way you do it is you basically hit the 3 dots. Anybody who's seen my webinars before knows the basic rule of Office 365. Click the 3 dots, something interesting will happen. That is the rule of 365. So in the Planner app, so if I wanted to search for that, I'd just do that, Planner, and it will add this link in. What it does now is it brings all of the actions in the various plans that you can see here, and you can view in various ways. So you can view them as a list, you can view them as a board. So if I wanted to, simple tasks like this, and then add buckets, all the various functionalities that are available in the web, all those views, the charts, the schedule. It's not going to show anything because I haven't put any dates on that yet, but or in a flat list view. And the flat list view was missing before from Planner, so that is new. But the oh, and the name, by the way, there is a point here. Yes, this is being changed to tasks because there's nothing Microsoft like more than renaming their applications. They love it. They have an entire department devoted to renaming stuff for the fun of it, I think. So you can access all of the stuff that's created in your Planner in one place there without having to go off to the Planner app and log in and do your 365 authentication again. But also this top section, this is where my to-do tasks that previously were in a totally separate app are all presented here. And again, I can interact with those and add schedules and what have you. Now, you've still got the To-Do app, so if you wanted to view this in the To-Do view, it's all still there. I haven't taken that away, but this is a new app to give people an interface for it. I would say,
personally, I like it. I like it in Teams. It's just that I can't be bothered to keep wandering over to a web page or opening up another application. I mean, just having Teams.
I think
there.
Increasingly, Teams is becoming the hub for everything, right? And I love it. I actually feel a bit aggrieved when I have to leave Teams to go to Outlook. So I kind of feel like, why am I having to go over here? And I'm waiting. I'm sure it's going to come an email, an Exchange 365 email client for Teams. That's going to come. It must do. So Teams is increasingly becoming the hub for everything. What I wanted to say though, in Teams itself, actually in the Teams bit of Teams, that's another problem with Microsoft naming, where they give the same word to different bits of functionality. You can still create a plan for the team in the way that you always could, and that still presents in the traditional way. They've added in that list option there, didn't used to be there, so that's new. But this is exactly as it has always been. I've seen a question that's coming about the planner view has changed for some users. So I'll push back on that slightly. The planner view has been added to for some users, but if you still want to do it the way you always did, you can. It's all still there. The default is pushing you towards this, and I suspect, if we're being honest, probably in time that might become the standard. But all of the, however you worked with Teams before, it's all still there. you can still do. And if I wanted to, I can pop out into, he says, interesting. I can honestly go out into Planner. Why it wasn't in that menu, I don't know, but I can go out into Planner and do everything that I would have done before as well. So if this new app in Teams is really just, it's an addition, it's not a replacement, and its function is to bring things together in one place. And you know, there's a choice there as to which way you want to go with it. Get email address. This is not new. People may have seen me talk about this before, in which case I apologize for repeating myself, but I do think it's useful. Get email address. So every channel has an email address. Now I'm going to copy that and I'm going to send it into this channel in the hope that that Mariam or Caroline might pick that up and send an email into the channel using that address while I'm talking. The reason, the value of that is that there was a hint there, chaps. The value of that is if you're working in Outlook, you're working through your emails and you're, that's an email from a customer or an email from whatever it might be. I want to discuss that with my team before I reply. Historic ways of doing that have always been a bit clumsy. Either you email it around to everybody and then you end up with multiple threads of conversation, or you attach it, or you know, it's a bit clumsy. Now you can actually just forward that email straight into the team, and then pick that up and start having a conversation about that. As I say, that's not new. That was there at the start of the year. I think it's been there a couple of years, to be fair, but it's really underutilized. I like it a lot. So yeah, every channel has its own. If I were to create another, let's say I would create a social media, wouldn't it? If I were to create a social media channel in here, after a few seconds, once it's created it properly, again I can do get email address. And for comparison, you'll see that is a different address. So each channel has its own address, so it knows where to put it into. Here's a an email that has just been sent in, actually from Tess. So
yeah, I didn't know how to do it from Caroline.
So having received that in, fair enough. Having received that in, you'll see it highlights that it came in by email. It tells you who it came from and when, all the usual stuff that you get with an email, the full content of it. I can actually pull the EML file and open it in Outlook if I want. But the point here is that I can I can respond to that email here as a conversation in Teams. It's not visible to the customer or whoever that sent in that original email. So the use case there is very much, you know, if you get an inquiry, could you do CRM for us? Well, let me just go and discuss that with our CRM and business applications team. Yes, I can. Thank you very much. Here's the answer. Now I can reply to my customer without the customer being sort of caught up in all the internal conversations.
And I guess it also means that you can, rather than replying or forwarding rather the email that's come in to loads of different people and then creating a whole new email thread, you're just sort of having one discussion within that team. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly that. Yeah. So this is then a single conversation that's happening in one place rather than, as you say, because you can end up like I forwarded this email to 3 people and then I've got 3 different replies and I've got to, oh, hang on, but you said something different to what you said, and you know, it all can get a bit messy.
Yeah.
The joy of this is it's all happening in one place. There's only one conversation going on and it's very clear. I have just seen. Sorry, go on.
Out of the box thinking is actually web forms. You could take that, create a new channel, call it web inquiries. You could have it connected to your website with a web form. Customer could fill in the form. It would drop an email into that team to be picked up by whoever's in that team to have a chat, discussion, and then return the email, theoretically.
You could do that, yes. There's probably a bit of power automate in between to make that work, but yeah, you definitely could. I like that actually. Put a web form on your website, have that submit as an email, send it into here, and then yeah.
How many
like
sites?
that,
many sites. It's a web form that goes to an email into their Outlook. Why bother? Skip Outlook, put it into Teams, have a bunch of people that watch it.
That's definitely a good use case for it. I like it. Thank you. I've seen a question has just come in about meetings. If you use the meet function from a channel, invite somebody external, can they definitely not see any replies that are written under the conversation in the channel? It's a very good question. Information security is the beating heart of the 2020s. If you're not sick of the phrase information security now, trust me, you will be in a few months' time. It's critical that we get our information security right. Yes, it is. You cannot see, because the recipient of that invitation, all they're going to get is the invitation to the meeting. So in order for the external person to be able to see the conversation that you were having about the meeting, and we're talking about this piece of functionality here, replying in here, in order for them to be able to see that, first you'd have to add them as a guest user on your Microsoft tenant. So it would be effectively, you'd be co-opting them into your business. There'd be you'd have to really actively go out of your way to give them permission. So if they're just an external person, if I were to send this to any one of our attendees today, they'd be able to see this, but they would not. Sorry, they would be able to see the meeting invite, but they would not be able to see the conversation around it. And just to demonstrate that, I'm going to say here is some. I'm running out of imaginative things to say. Here is some conversation content. Now, if I open that meeting up and I add what? I can't remember your email address, is it? Do you know what? I'm going to go Jig because I can remember Jig's email address. If I were to add Jig to this meeting now as an external, I'll send the update. So Jig will receive that invite in the in his Outlook as normal, and then perhaps later in the meeting you can show us that you can't get through from there into the Teams conversation. There is also another question related to this, which is when I created meetings in a channel, it didn't seem to matter who I invited. Everyone in the team received an invite. I have not seen that for a while. I think, yes, by default, it previously invited everyone. Now it asks you who you want to invite. I think that is a change. However, it's a fair comment, so I'm going to I'll test it, and I will respond to the questioner directly after the meeting and say, not directly, I will respond directly to the questioner after the webinar to address that. We'll set expectations. I'm going to do it immediately. So there we are. So another thing that has come in that is very new, very exciting, is lists. Now, lists used to be part of SharePoint, and again, like Planner, they still are. If you want to use them in SharePoint, they're still there. But what they've done is they've sort of extracted that functionality and built on it, expanded it, and created a new capability in lists. Now, lists, I was about to put it there, you can't put it there. Lists have to be put into a channel. So if I was to say in the social media thing, this would be a really good use of lists, actually. I can say the lists app here. and you'll see I can either create a new list or I can add an existing list. So by add an existing list, it's going to say this is a reference to an existing SharePoint list. To say, okay, I want to pull that existing SharePoint list in and present it here. Or I can create a new list in here. And then I've got all these lovely templates. From there, I can either, again, if I press the wrong button, doesn't matter, I can still use the existing list function. I can use one of the lovely exciting templates, which obviously are configurable once you've got them, so you can pull those in and configure them. In fact, we've got the content scheduler template, so I'm going to use that because that would sort of make sense in regard to a social media. And you'll see here, it allows you to, it sort of gives you a little preview of what that's going to look like. And then we say, yes, I want to do that. Yes, please. Already called one content scheduler somewhere. And then that sort of pre-builds with the various columns, and I can go new item, security, what post content is, that it's assigned to somebody, that we're planning to have it done by the 28th, etc., etc. You get the idea. We're going to publish it on the 30th. It's a social media post. If I wanted to, I can add an image in there, and once it's published, I can store a link to it, which is the sort of thing that I imagine marketing departments might love to have available to them in Teams.
We love lists.
We do.
Yeah. Now you could go further, in fact, of course, and you could hook this together with Power Automate, and you could build an approval process onto it as well. So you build it all in. We've seen the draft, get it approved, record that the approvals happened, and so on. And you could even use automation to actually do the publication out into social media. So you can hook all of this stuff together, and the combination of the lists, the teams, and the automation gives you a nice, really intuitive interface, plus a really slick automated process to actually deliver this stuff. So Teams
I would say
is
also, just for anyone that uses social media, like how we would, I mean, we've used Hootsuite, but it sounds like actually we could automate this, so we could kind of avoid having to use that and have it all in one place, running Teams as well, which makes life a lot easier. It's going back to that whole thing again of how you can make everything a bit more efficient and productive, but also making your life easier by not having to keep going to different windows, different web pages, having different logins. Just simplifies it.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only limitation I would say, and this is a limitation that's true of Hootsuite as well, is it's quite difficult to automate processes into LinkedIn. That's because LinkedIn have gone out of their way to make it difficult. LinkedIn don't really want automated posts; they want organic content, so that they've made it difficult.
That's interesting.
That's true, whatever your platform that you're using, though. There are lots of use cases for this: asset registers. You could even use it for ticketing and, recording inquiries, etc., etc. There's loads of them, and I'm sure people can come up with their own uses as well. There are these are all configurable. So if I just wanted to say, actually, maybe I just want to add a yes/no column of approved, for example. You can see it's really easy to do that, and on drop-down lists you can edit the settings, column settings, edit. You can, if you want to change the color that different options are, you can add more choices and so on. You can really configure these in as complex a way as you like. Now you'll see, so that there, if I click on that, it's going to bring me back to the main record. couple of interesting things. So firstly, if I tick that there, I can copy a link to that specific row. Copy that. If I wanted to then talk about that here, I can post that link in there and start a conversation. I click on that link, it's going to open. He says, fingers crossed, that specific row. Thank you very much. I love it when it does what I was expecting, because I'll be honest, I haven't tested that. So that's one option. There is another option, which is that if you actually open it up, you see here you've got a conversation button, which that then creates a conversation. There you go, Mariam has replied, thank you. I can now have a conversation here about that post. Whatever it might be, you can start to have a conversation around the individual record. So we're starting to move now from Teams just being, but Teams being almost if you have a chat video, it's starting to become a real collaboration application. I don't know why I stumbled over the word application. So anyway, there you go. So you get all that. Again, we've got the copy link. If rows have got attachments, by the way, it will show attachments down here. So we get all of that. Good. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Flow app as well. So the Flow app has been radically overhauled over the summer. So you'll see that it has a chat option that so you can interact with Flow in a kind of chat way, and it will tell you these are the ones that I can run for you. This is, as I said, a test environment, so there's not that many, but it also gives you access to the flows to do to interact with and do more with. So if you wanted to edit your flows from here, you can. You don't need to go back and forth into the Flow app. You can do it from here. And your approvals. So we were just talking there on the social media one, the social media list, that we might want to get approval for a post before it goes out. Other approvals commonly are things like expense claims, holiday, invoice payments, etc. So things that require a level of management approval before they happen, maybe proposals going out, whatever it might be. You can put all of those approvals here. So this received, I don't have any at the moment, but it would have in here, you need to approve these things, and you get the yes, no button for each one. You can do that out of Teams as well now. Once you've added it here, this is a good point. Anything that you add here, those apps will be available almost immediately, a minute or two, say, in the mobile Teams app as well. So once I've added that Flow app here, I can then get to all of my approvals from my mobile app, which is quite cool. Good noise. Wow, like it.
Wow.
And your business process flows, they're quite complicated, so I'm not going to get into them today. So, yes. I forget where I was going to go next. I did just see a question. From what you've shown, it doesn't seem there's a way anymore to share plans collated in one place in the board view, which before there was. I'm going to confess, so the author of that question, from what you've shown, it doesn't seem there's a way to share plans collated in one place. Can I ask for a bit more clarity on that question? Because I don't fully understand what you're asking there. Whilst I'm waiting for that to come in, so we've talked about lists, we've talked about Planner. Let's talk about uploading custom backgrounds. So custom backgrounds, you can see myself. Oh, well, no, you can't actually see it at the moment. Trust me, behind me, there you go.
There you
Thank
go.
you very much. Behind me, lovely custom branded background rather than my rather messy home office. There's a competition among the three of us for who's got the messiest home office. I don't think it's me. Yes.
Yeah.
Basically in a garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, hiding where we really are.
Originally, and until I think June-ish, June, July, something like that, the way to change these was quite complicated. You had to add the picture into a particular folder in Windows, restart Teams, etc., etc. You don't need to do any of that anymore. If I go to join this meeting, and it's going to say without video, and then it's not going to allow me to do it because I'm in the web version, I've just realized. So, however, so you'll just have to trust me on this one. There is now in the new, when you join a meeting, you can set your background. There's like a little icon of a person in front of a blurred background. If you click on that, you can actually upload images. I did that immediately before this meeting to get my background done. So it's really easy. It's 2 clicks now, where before, frankly, it was almost like registry editing. It was a nightmare, but now it's really quick and easy to do. I've seen some really good uses of virtual backgrounds. You see some with nice big wallpaper logos like we've got. You see some with QR codes that people can scan in a meeting, and it takes them to your contact details or takes them to your homepage, whatever it might be. So yeah, have a look at that. Now, another thing that has changed in terms of the meeting experience is large gallery and together mode. Now, yesterday I was in a meeting and I captured a little bit of that experience. So there's no sound here, but I just wanted to give you a view and talk through it a bit. So this is the standard gallery, which would hold up to 9 people. You can see there's a lot more attendees in this meeting down the bottom. So if I switch to large gallery, so it will hold up to 49, but it limits itself to the number of people that have got their camera turned on. And we gave our colleagues some notice in advance yesterday and said, we're going to be doing this. And a lot of them immediately turned their cameras off, and who can blame them? But it will actually get to 49. So you can get out to a 7x7 grid. Beware that you are pulling 49 separate video streams down into your PC and processing them, and sometimes that can overwhelm your broadband, but the capability does exist. The other one is this thing called together mode. And by the way, sorry, I meant to say, if you watch there, so it's this, again, click the 3 dots, select from the menu. You can see there that the tick here, that shows we're in large gallery mode. If I let the video run, it's going to go to together mode. And what together mode does is it tries to create a sort of a virtual room and then puts everyone in that virtual room. So this is the same meeting viewed in together mode. Now, it's quite good fun. I'm not really sure how useful it is. And it does have a problem, as you can see, that it slightly depends how close you are to your camera, you know, because obviously that changes your size in the picture, as you see, and I pull backwards and forwards. For example, this is me here, this is Nick Potter here. It's been a while since Nick and I were in the same place, but I'm pretty sure I'm not actually 4 times the size of him. So you have to account for it being a bit variable in that respect, but it makes for an interesting meeting. And then you can switch back to the standard mode at any time if you want as well. So that's those. I think the large gallery is probably more useful than the together mode. Presenter mode hasn't arrived yet, but is coming very soon. Presenter mode will scale so that you appear at the bottom left, yes, as you're looking at the screen, bottom left of the screen, and behind you is the PowerPoint that you're attempting to present, or the screen share or whatever. So I'm hoping that that's going to come to the webinars very soon as well. So you'd actually be able to see me talking whilst looking at this view. That's coming soon. It's not
like a weather lady, a weatherman.
A bit like a weather lady, yes, you know, and it's going to be sweeping down from the north, exactly, all that sort of, that kind of view. And that's, I believe, coming, I mean, I actually was expecting it to be in place by now. Certainly during October was what they originally said, so that's coming very soon. A couple of things that are coming in the future. One, which I think will be of interest, particularly to anybody with internal marketing or internal news information type responsibilities, is the embed modern SharePoint page. So if you're using SharePoint as an intranet as we do to publish our internal information, the such person passed an exam, they're promoted, we've won a new customer, the company barbecues on Friday, although now you all have to provide your own barbecue in your own back garden, but you know, that kind of news and information, we will actually be able to embed that into Teams and make it the home page. So the first link that we see when we come into Teams is going to be the intranet, and then you navigate down into other things, and it'll be fully branded. It will look like your business rather than being Microsoft branded. So that's, I think, a big improvement, because if we're honest, we have a lot of these pages. Does everybody go out their way to look at it? Maybe, maybe not. So I think that's quite a big step. The other one that I think is really interesting, Microsoft have been putting a lot of time, effort, energy, money into how to make working from home and working remotely more manageable for all of us. And so they are bringing in a thing called Insights for Teams. That's coming in the early part of next year and is well worth looking out for. So Insights for Teams will do things like, it will give you a page that says you've got a time conflict here, and make it really easy to reschedule. It'll say, book some time here, you've got an hour there that's not booked, let's book it so you've got some time to focus. It will start to point out if you're doing back-to-back, I mean, you probably know this for yourself, but if you're doing back-to-back meetings, it'll point it out and say, hey, do you want me to fix that for you so you're not doing back-to-back meetings? And they're introducing this idea, which I really like, the idea of the virtual commute. So one of the things that we have lost is that wind down time, and particularly, and actually I was talking to one of our directors about this yesterday who recognised it, that you've got your work level of stress and activity, and you're kind of up to here with work stuff, and then it's 5:30 and then bang, you're in the family room and you're like, whoa, hello, you know,
you don't have that switch
and you come into that room. Sorry, you
don't have that switch off period in the car.
Exactly, you don't have the switch off period. For me, I used to work in Canary Wharf. It was a 2-hour train ride home with an audio book, and even you know, at Select, it's probably an hour's drive audio book on in the car. Wind down so that you're not bringing work straight into the workplace, into the home environment rather. Do bring work into the workplace, but don't bring it into the home environment. Yeah. So. And they're introducing this idea of a virtual commute where Teams will actually start to say to you, look, it's 5:30, you know, stop it, go away now. And Teams will start reminding you, and it will provide reports. You might go, this is fine, but it's not information that isn't available if they didn't want to look for it. It'll start providing reports that your company directors can use to say, that person, it'll flag up burnout warnings and that sort of stuff. So I think we probably need to intervene. So I think that's a really good idea. I think it's a really good use of the technology to actually help people manage their work-life balance. So summing up, so there's a couple of questions. What are some of the third-party applications which integrate with Teams? Really good question. There's lots of them.
There's so many.
There's lots and lots and lots of them. If we could just flip back to the screen preview, we can pop that up on here. The answer is always have a look at the 3 dots and then press more apps, by the way. There's loads of them. You can put all sorts of stuff in there. It's not actually particularly difficult to integrate third-party apps as well. So if you've got apps that you particularly want and they haven't got an integration, it's relatively, you need some programming knowledge, but it's not a massive task to create an integration. You see there you've got Salesforce, you've got Zapier, which is a process automation, Stack Overflow. There's loads and loads and loads, and we don't really have the time to go through it in great detail. But Rike is one that I know gets used quite a lot. Adobe Sign is another one that people are quite because I know what the Adobe sign-on will do is when somebody signs a document for you, it will tell you in Teams or what have you. The Places app, which is Microsoft app, that will, so when you're going somewhere, it will tell you where the nearest restaurants are and all that sort of stuff. You're taking your customers out, etc., etc. I would suggest to answer that question. The best way is to do the 3 dots, hit more apps, have a look through here. There are, as you can see, SurveyMonkey, by the way, that's another very common one, Wikipedia search, and so on and so on.
Zoom's in there as well. So weirdly, you can.
Zoom and Zoho.
Yeah, so if you're a user, I know there are quite a few places that might be using Teams and Zoom in different departments.
Yeah,
it's not the best. We would say use the same system across the board, but if that's not the case, you can integrate Zoom into Teams. And therefore, everybody can then end up having the same experience a bit more. So that's quite interesting.
I just noticed they're not in alphabetical order, which is a bit irritating, isn't it? But there you are. So yeah, have a good look around on that. We got a clarification on the question from earlier. On the Planner app, before you were able to see your collated tasks from all the channels in Planner in board view. Now it seems you can either go on Assign to Me, which shows the collated view but is not in board view, or each of the channels listed individually and see it. Right. I think I understand. So, so the My Tasks, having gone to this is the My Tasks view, and I can switch that to say which plan is it from, and there's a board view there, progress, due date, and priority. There isn't a list view there. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, Nick, but they may mean within the Teams Planner app.
Within the Teams one, I would agree. Yeah, so in the Teams
you can't
app,
see board view for if you just click your tasks. It's just
correct. So the My Tasks is what would have been in To Do, and here. So yes, if that is, but you could still go to the planned tasks and see. I see. Right. Yes, and see it in list view, but not the board view. So right. I think I've understood now. Yeah. So here, yes, correct. You can only see it in list view, not in board view. Yes.
That's annoying.
Yeah. As I say, this is an addition, not a replacement. So you can still do it here. Okay. You always used to be able to do it here, and you still can. Personally, I prefer a list, to be honest. And the list does tell you which plan it has come from. But yeah, I'd agree. This doesn't do that specific function quite as well as the website, but it is still there in the web version of Planner.
Yeah.
I would imagine that will come into Teams at some point in the future.
Yeah. These are developing all the time. So yeah.
I mean, this is fair. This is only what, a month, couple of months that this has been.
Yeah. I mean, if you'd come to this 3 weeks ago, it didn't have this task section in it.
So, yeah.
This has literally come in during October, so this is developing all the time. And if you really want to ask Microsoft to do that, I would suggest go to Google Microsoft Voice Planner. They have a website where they say, what do you want? And you can go and ask them for it, and they may or may not do it. And it's worth checking because some other people may have already asked for it, and you can upvote those ones. So if that's something you're really passionate about, Google, Microsoft, or Bing, with your search engine of choice, look up Microsoft User Voice for Planner, and it'll be there. And I think A, we're approaching the top of the hour, and B, I've run out of things to say.
Well, I'm going to quickly jump in and say I couldn't, on that privacy point where I joined the meeting, I couldn't see anything beforehand. I just could join the meeting, and that was all. Oh, hello. be shared.
So you couldn't get through into the Teams?
No, I couldn't get into Teams. I could only join the meeting as an external person, which is the normal view, I'd assume. So that's a nice bit of security there, so you're not having to worry about that. There are a couple other features that we haven't spoken about. One of them being breakout rooms that are coming as well, which is quite exciting.
Yeah.
You know, have your meeting and create mini breakout rooms and have a look at, see how that. But that seems quite exciting to me. I'm just marketing, and I'm easily happy, as it were. And I quite like the whole presenter mode as well. I think there's a bit more that's happening. It's not just the whole sit in the corner, but you can actually control how it looks on the screen and control the positioning of how everything's laid out. So there's multiple layers to it. So there's a lot more that's coming in the future, which is very, very exciting. And I can't remember, there's something else that was actually really interesting, which is meeting recaps. So you have your meeting, people can't turn up for whatever reason. Microsoft will record the meeting, do a transcript for it, pull up some boards for it. So after the meeting, all of this content is then available to everybody that joined the meeting and everybody that didn't turn up to the meeting for whatever reason, to be able to access that information. That's coming up as well in the next few months as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can already with any team meeting, if you switch to record it, which again from the three dots, start recording, it will at the end of the meeting it will make a video available that you can upload into Stream, which you will have in your Office tenant, and it will automatically generate subtitles or transcripts and so on. So some of that is coming, but yeah, recaps definitely built on that in an interesting and useful way, I think. So, are we done? Oh, one thing I will say, we sent out a form. I know the session has ended. Please do fill that form in. There's some. The main benefit of that is that it helps us to work out what's coming next, if you will, and what's later in the webinar program. So because there's some questions in there that will help us to target future content. So yeah, if you get a chance to fill that form in, please do. We'd be really grateful for the help. And that's me done.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nick and Tess. It's been really an interesting webinar. Lots and lots and lots of questions are coming through. Keep them coming. I've put our details on the screen now, so if you do have any more questions or have anything that you'd like to ask, or anything, or want to just have a chat with us for some other random reason that's not to do with Teams, there's our email addresses. We are going to be providing a recording of this video on our website. Hopefully later today. I'm going to share that on social media. Please follow us, and I will drop you an email with a survey to do, and you can tell us how good or bad we really are. Please just it's just good. I won't give you a bad option. So if there's any more questions you'd like to ask, doesn't look like it. Tess, anything you'd like to add to it?
I don't think so. Just thank you everyone for attending.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you everyone. Yeah, we won't keep you anymore. And if you can't see it, I'm not going to be able to see it. We're going to do the customary wave to each other and say bye.
Bye.